What's up guys, Calum here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about 3 habits, 3 pillars that you can really focus on in your life that will guaranteed make you wealthy over the long term. And the reason why I'm making this video is that I feel like in our society right now there's a lot of politicians and people in the media that are maybe telling you how difficult it is if you're not financially successful right now, or if you don't have much money, or if you're a minority, or if you're of this sexuality or this gender, that it's so much more difficult for you to develop wealth over time and that the system is rigged against you. And I think that on YouTube also you have a bunch of crazy videos of people telling you, oh my gosh, like you work a job, you work a 9 to 5, that's ridiculous. I make $10,000 a month. Let me sign you up for my course and show you how I make so much money. And so I think that it's important for you watching this, for myself, to realize that there are very simple principles that we can rely upon to develop wealth over time that you don't have to pay other people money for, that are very just simple, time-tested truths. And I've been toying around with this framework lately in my mind of these 3 different pillars, and I think that if you stick with me and watch this video, you'll realize that it's a very simple kind of mental model that you can stick with for your life that makes a lot of sense, that can ease a lot of anxiety, and where you can know, okay, if I do these 3 things, I'm going to be successful despite anything else going on outside of my control. So the first pillar is actually the most common mainstream thing that everyone focuses on, which is to increase your income over time, to earn more money over time. And I think that it's obvious how that would be helpful for becoming wealthy one day, is to make more money. It makes a lot of sense. And so I think a lot of people don't really understand how to do that, and it can be a little bit overwhelming if you make $20,000, $30,000 a year and you're like, how am I going to get to the point where I'm making $100,000 a year? How can I increase my income over time if I'm working a job that I don't enjoy and I don't feel very purposeful? And the step 1 is to make sure that you're working a job that you do enjoy in a field that you enjoy with people that you like and respect. I think that's so important because in order to become really good at something and really valuable in something, it's so much easier if you're actually interested in it and passionate about it. So right now, if you're working a job that you don't enjoy, the very simple framework that you can think of is to give more value than what you're being paid for. So if you're working a minimum wage job or a job that doesn't pay that much, where your responsibilities are somewhat limited, I would look at that and I would say, okay, what are the 3 key things that I'm being paid for? What are my main responsibilities? And I would spend my time trying to get better at those main kind of key results that I'm being judged on. And I would go beyond that and try to do the best job possible to work all of the hours that you're being paid for in the day, and to make sure that you're doing as good of a job as possible and really going above and beyond what you're being paid for. And the way that this works is that if you do this, you will make yourself invaluable to the company that you're working for. And by default, they're going to pay you more over time. If you ask for a raise and you are clearly doing way more than what you're being paid for, they need you so bad, they're going to give you more money. And if you work for a crappy company where they don't respect you, where they don't want to pay you more, guess what? You can go and get a different job. You can work for someone else who's going to be super happy to pay you more money, to hire someone who is an amazing employee. And so it's pretty simple. And I think that if you're right now working a job that you don't enjoy, I would still make sure that you're giving above and beyond, doing your best, and then I would spend my time trying to find a better job that you could get into. So I read about a study one time that looked at people in their careers, and what it found was that when people first get into their initial job out of college, oftentimes they'll go into turbocharge mode, they'll learn everything they need to know, they'll put in a ton of work to become competent at their job, and after about year 1, they start literally declining in productivity, and most people decline their entire careers and are constantly becoming less valuable. And the reason why is that people tend to use their time poorly. They tend to invest their time into Netflix or video games or the internet or whatever it is. And so really all you have to do is to make sure that you're doing something that you enjoy and that you spend most of your time in a positive way. So you spend your time well every day, all day, throughout throughout the years, and that you're going to become more valuable in that field. You can become an expert in that field, and it's inevitable that you're going to get paid more money over time. And the reason why that's important is going to lead into step number 2, pillar number 2, habit number 2, which is basically saving as high a percentage of your income as is reasonable. So I actually made a video on this a few years ago where I looked at this, and the mainstream narrative point of view on, so what amount of money should you save, is they always say, okay, save 10% of your income, or save 15% of your income, or if they're really ballsy, they'll say you should save 20% of your income. But the whole percentages thing is kind of a misnomer, because it really just depends on how much money you're making. So for example, if you have someone who makes $1 million a year post-tax, and then someone who makes $30,000 a year post-tax, the amount they can save would be vastly different. So the person making $1 million a year post-tax, they could literally save 97% of their income. So they could save $970,000 a year, and they could live off $30,000 a year super easily. So they'd be saving 97% of their income. However, if you have someone who's making $30,000 a year, it would be impossible for them to save 97 or 90 or 80% of their income unless they were living at home and had all their expenses paid for. In reality, that person that's making 30 a year, they could save 10 or $15,000 a year, and they probably really couldn't go much beyond that. So obviously the amount of money that you're making plays a big role in how much money you can save, which is why it's important to increase your income over time. And if I was to give you guys kind of like a generic ballpark for what you should be shooting for, I would say 50%. And I think that's really doable for a lot of people. So personally myself, I save, it fluctuates, but it averages out to be around 50% a year is what I save. And some months are more, some months are a little bit less, but that's what it averages out to. And I think that if you're making a bunch of money, you should be shooting for higher. And if you're making less money, you should be shooting for 50%. And as you make yourself more valuable and make more money over time, you can get into that 50% range. And my goal one day is to be saving 70, 75, 80% of my income. And you also want to make sure that you're not depriving yourself of living an awesome life, because the whole point of life is to enjoy it. So you want to make sure that you are going out with friends and going on cool vacations and making sure that you have cool hobbies and that you're doing fun things with your life. So that's why I say save as high a percentage of your income as is reasonable and doable and fun. Most people though are horrible at saving money. And I think that our society really glorifies step number 1, which is increasing your income. And people usually only look at that. So they assume, okay, if this person's making $100,000 a year, they're rich. Or if they're making $200,000 a year, they're super rich. But in reality, of course, your income has nothing to do with the underlying net worth, which is what people don't even see. And I'm sure that you've seen this before, but I know people in my personal life who have very high incomes and who have very low net worths. So they're horrible at saving money, they're bad at investing money, they don't know what to do with their money, etc. And so, especially in the United States, people have very low savings rates. I mean, we have a very consumeristic society. People are constantly really trying to show other people how successful they are by what car they drive or what kind of apartment they live in or what kind of house they own. And in reality, it's really hard to actually know someone's net worth, but it is shocking to meet people who have high incomes and who really are not financially successful. So I would just make sure that you're just being frugal in your day-to-day life as much as it feels good to be. So for myself, I spend most of my money when I buy things, I buy them used. So it's very rare that I buy new objects. If it's a higher price object, I'm always gonna be buying it used. I like that because it's beneficial to the environment. It saves me a bunch of money. I'm constantly selling things. I'm constantly trying to find ways to save more money. And so step number 3, pillar number 3 to focus on, which is the least understood, the least practiced, is investing your money. So what I like to do is, a cool concept is to think of yourself as a business. So you might be watching this and saying, oh, I don't know, I just work this job. But if you think about it, really, you are your own entity and you are deciding to contract your physical services out to a job. And in that contract is how much they're gonna pay you hourly or salary, and you are going into agreement. So I think it's important to view your life as you being in control, you making the decisions, and that you're deciding to, as a business entity, to contract yourself out to a job if you're working a job, or if you run your own business, obviously you run your own business. And so if you think of yourself as a business entity, what you can try to do is increase your income over time, reduce your net expenses over time so that you have a higher take-home savings, and then to take that cash flow from your savings and to buy attractively priced assets with that money. So buy attractively priced businesses or real estate or whatever it is. And if you think about it, it is impossible not to become wealthy over time if you do that. So if you picture like an imaginary guy or girl who works very hard, gives more than what they're being paid for, they increase their income over time, and then they work on saving their money. So they save a high percentage of their income. They're very frugal, they're very humble, they're very smart with money. And then they take that cash flow and they buy attractively priced businesses. And if they do this over a long period of time, of course, they're gonna become multimillionaires. They're gonna become very successful. Now, unfortunately, most people aren't interested in investing. And the news that I have to break to you is that you do have to learn about it. So the mainstream narrative is, hey, it's too hard to invest. It's impossible to beat the market. You should buy a personal residence, so you should buy a house, and then you should take the rest of your money and you should buy low-cost ETFs, you should buy index funds, passive investing. You can't do it yourself, you should buy passive funds. And it's actually pretty good advice for most people. However, I would imagine that maybe 1 in 1,000 people would just be able to do that off the bat. So I think it's a very rare person that could pick up a book or a pamphlet or watch a YouTube video and say, oh, I should invest in a diversified basket of low-cost ETFs and I should dollar cost average into them over time and I should rebalance and all this different stuff. I think that very few people can read that and then instantly do that for the rest of their life. I think that for most of us, we need to have it hammered into our brain over and over and over again. You might need further explanations. You might really need a deep dive into it to gain a good understanding. So for myself, my whole life I was interested in finance, economics, investing. And about 4 years ago, in 2016, I really did a deep dive. And since then, I have spent an enormous amount of time reading books, listening to podcasts, investing, looking into businesses, practicing trial and error, and figuring out investing. And for like the first 3.5 years, I felt so unconfident. It's really the most complicated field that exists. And the more that I looked into it, the more I realized, oh my gosh, I don't know about accounting and economics and all these different factors that are coming into play for this. So it's very difficult. But over the past 6 months, year, I've really started to notice the knowledge accumulate underneath my belt. So I'm like, whoa, I feel a lot more confident. I've been having good success with it. And I think that it's something that you kind of have to suck up and learn. So for me, I was initially deterred and kind of sketched out by passive investing. I saw a lot of problems with it. It didn't really make sense to me. I didn't really want to do it. And still, I don't do passive investing. I actually find my own businesses to invest in. I analyze them myself. I manage my own money. But now that I've learned so much about everything, I do realize why people recommend passive investing. I do think it's the optimal choice for most people. However, I think that you have to make that decision for yourself. And I think that if you want to become wealthy, you do have to gain some kind of baseline understanding of finance, of investing, and really find out what flavor is for you. So you might say, hey, I don't really want to spend any time on this. I only want to focus on my career. I want to make my income as high as possible. I'm going to buy a personal residence and I'm going to invest in index funds and I'm going to spend 0 time on that. And I think that you're going to have a ton of success if you do that. And then you might find for yourself, hey, actually, I really love investing and I want to become a stock investor, or I want to buy real estate, or I want to start my own business, or I want to buy a local business and take it over. So you might find your own flavor for investing, but I think that it's something that you really have to look into, because even if you get a good income and you save a bunch of money, if you're keeping it all in cash, it's going to be slowly inflating away and you're really going to be stunting your growth financially if you don't learn how to invest. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys to think about it in this way. I think that this framework has been really helpful for me. So personally, I think it was like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I had started a business and really ran out of money. I had moved to a new city. I didn't fully understand how much money I would need to have saved to do it. And I started from scratch, got a low paying job, and have consistently just been working up overtime, getting paid more overtime. I work a much better job now. I save a ton of money. I invest my money, and it's been working super well for me. And I think that this is a really just beautiful way for viewing your life, viewing your finances. And what I've seen for myself is that it's unstoppable. So the trajectory of my net worth is going up, 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 up. Of course, there's gonna be like market fluctuations that will make it go up and down over time. But the truth is, if you do this, no one can stop you despite your background, your age, your race, your sexuality, whatever it is, whatever the media or politicians want to tell you is limiting you, it's really not true. So if you work hard and make more money over time, if you save a high percentage of your income, and if you buy attractively priced assets, so don't buy overvalued stocks. If you buy attractively priced assets, you're gonna do super well over time. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video and this perspective, and I would love if you commented below with your thoughts on personal finance, investing, and the way that you think about your money. And also, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. I make videos on finance, minimalism, meditation, a bunch of cool subjects all about improving your life. So if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys soon. Ciao.